Here's a chart of pedestrian traffic on this street over the course of 2024. Can you tell when it's pedestrianized in the summer? The most common argument against pedestrian streets is that they're bad for business. So I came to Wellington, one of Montreal's very popular summer pedestrian streets. I wanted to talk to some business owners and better understand, how do these crowds translate into business? Do people stop and buy, or just browse and walk? Why, if this is so successful, did they recently decide not to go pedestrian year-round? And what might surprise people about what makes a good pedestrian street?
My name is Joseph Deleva, and this is Restaurant Rita.
My name is Philippe Sarrazin. I'm the co-owner of La Librairie de Verdun.
This video was made in partnership with EcoCounter, whose data I'm using in this video. They can count bikes, pedestrians, e-scooters, and cars too. Have they been doing this since forever? Nope.
We were just coming out of COVID. That was the safest way for us to bring back people on the street. And it was also a good way for us to help the restaurant who had it pretty tough during COVID.
The idea was to be able to give us a little bit more space.
Here's pedestrian traffic in 2020. There was a sharp drop in March. It feels like so long ago, doesn't it? And then, the car-free summer really brought the street back to life. I wondered, would they have done this without COVID?
Yes, plausibly yes, but we were thinking about it maybe for 3 or 4 weeks and not for 3 or 4 months.
In 2020, the street recorded 1.7 to 2.7 million pedestrians, depending on the location. That was down from pre-pandemic 2019. But pedestrianization plausibly brought in hundreds of thousands of visits that summer that would otherwise not have happened. They kept doing it and blew past pre-pandemic pedestrian volumes in just a few years. Here's pre-pandemic, pre-pedestrianization on the left, and 2025 on the right, with dramatically higher summers. Here's the same comparison at the other counting location at the other end of the street. Montreal has about a dozen pedestrian streets, depending on how you count, with the majority being summer only. Just quickly, a few things I like about Wellington. It's long, 1.3 kilometers. Shorter car-free streets can be nice neighborhood amenities, but longer ones like this can become a destination that brings people in. It has outdoor workplaces, creative designs, swings, things for kids to play on, seating, ground murals, and pavement art. Pedestrianization brings a lot more people to this street, but does it translate into business?
Yes.
For us businesses, if there's more people, chances are we'll have more customers. It's simple math.
But it does depend on the business.
Bars and restaurants, cafes, anything in the food and beverage industries.
Generally speaking, those businesses love it. It brings more people. They get more space. It's just a nice atmosphere.
We're about 74 spots inside, and we actually kept 16 outside. We tried to give the best service possible. We felt that if we had a bigger terrace with more people, you lose a bit of that quality of service. We're popular enough that people are willing to come and wait for a table for maybe half an hour or an hour before having someone call them back. We have a waiting list.
The FIFA tournament, well, there's a lot of cafes and restaurants that shows the game, so it's full of people. There's a good ambiance. It's fun. It's a fun street.
The bookstore actually has a completely different relationship with summer.
People leave for holidays. Schools are closed. And we are not in the Christmas season. So for us, summer is more of a slower period. It's like a marketing operation. And when we take stuff outside, it's bargains. It's like books that are maybe a little bit broken and stuff like that. So we can sell the stuff to make some room for the new things that will be arriving during the big period, which is autumn and Christmas season. It's a win-win. Yeah. Customers are happy because they make good deals, and we're happy because we're not keeping this inventory in for the cash flow. It's a good thing for us too.
We talk about pedestrian streets being good for business as a yes-no question. But in reality, it can depend on the business. Not everyone likes it.
Medical or clinics, eye doctor or dentist.
I have a friend who's a chiro. His customers, they can't walk. They're sick. They have back problems and leg problems. So for him, it's a big issue when you close down the parkings right in front of his store.
Sometimes you can make small changes to lessen the blow for those folks.
Talking about my chiro, Louis is a super cool, where we allowed him to have cars in the morning. So that his worst damaged customers, if I may say so, could come by car and just walk towards the store. So we try to adapt.
Deliveries are allowed on the street in the morning too, so it's not unprecedented. Big picture though, 81% of businesses on this street are in favor, from a survey done in 2023. The year-round pedestrian proposal was not as unanimous though. More on that in a bit. How do you get here if you can't park on the street? It's a dense neighborhood, so tens of thousands of people can walk or bike. Honestly, a lot of the success of pedestrian streets comes down to that, I think. That works for mobility scooters too, which are actually really common around here.
We are very blessed to be able to have so many metros.
Usually you can find a place to park because, like you said, there's so many cross streets that you'll be able to find. And the city adapted by putting a little bit more parking meters. So this way, the fluidity of the car or the circulation is better.
Short blocks, more cross streets, makes it easier for people to park or get dropped off close. And it means more businesses can take deliveries on the side. That's one big detail about what makes a good pedestrian street I never really thought about before, that I heard from these business owners. Although most cross streets should ideally be lower traffic residential streets, which don't break up the feel or the flow of the pedestrian street like higher traffic roads.
There's also the tuk-tuk, which is a free shuttle, basically a little bike with a carriage on the back, and you can kind of wave them down and they'll bring you from one side to the. I believe it's free. That was something that had been added.
There's a large parking garage. In the pedestrian season, you drive in through the back, but you can walk right out onto the pedestrian street.
A couple of years ago, Time Out, the magazine, they rated us the number one coolest street in the world, and it was crazy. We had to put a sheet on the door that says that we were full. Unprecedented popularity that brought so many people to the street.
Would that have happened if it wasn't pedestrian in the summer? Probably not.
I think if you Google like the Promenade Wellington, that article still comes up.
Events like that show up in the pedestrian counts. Here are the daily pedestrian numbers of the closest counter to his restaurant in 2022. That spike up here, the highest count of the year, that's the Saturday after the article declared Wellington the coolest street in the world, based on a survey of 20,000 people. That spike is 16,000 pedestrians versus 9,000 the previous Saturday before the article.
There are some special events. There's dancing every Friday. That's a huge thing, and there's hundreds of people that come
from probably outside of the city too to come dance on the street.
I went to that. If I load the hourly data for that day into EcoVisio, EcoCounter's analysis platform, there's a big spike in pedestrians around the start of the event at the closest counter. Then there's a secondary spike over the next few hours at the other counter at the other end of the street. Sure looks like a lot of people came for the dancing and then stuck around. So if this pedestrian street is so obviously successful in the summer, why not go year-round? That was the proposal of a citizen initiative a few years ago.
I think it's a false good idea because of the weather.
It's a great idea on paper, and it's a great idea if you have a climate that is a little bit more forgiving than Montreal in the winter.
Yeah, the businesses I talked to were just not interested, despite being totally enthusiastic about the summer pedestrianization.
I think it has to do also with staff issues because during the summer we have the students, but they go back to school in September, so we lose our staff. But it's a great thing to have it during the summer.
I also heard about how many businesses that don't love pedestrianization suck it up when they know it's such a big boost to their neighbors. But if the boost is less obvious, say during the winter, they're less open to tolerating it. Honestly, I get why business owners are cautious about year-round pedestrianization. To me, it's not that people can't handle the cold. Plenty of things get people outside in the winter. even in a city like this that stays well below freezing for 3 or 4 months of the year. It's that what those attractions and activities are is quite different from the summer. Right now, the city's pedestrian streets are built around outdoor dining, which is much more limited below freezing. Hot chocolate? Sure. A full meal at this restaurant? Probably not.
We definitely see a dip in the people that want to be outside when it gets a touch colder. So those starts to get chilly a little bit in September, and definitely more people want to be inside than outside.
You need something else. Christmas markets, light shows, music, skating, sledding. We actually have a few successful year-round pedestrian streets, like in Montreal's entertainment district. The adjacent plaza turns into an extremely popular skating rink in the winter. It does have the foot traffic of half a dozen concert and performing arts venues, plus an adjacent mall in the middle of downtown. Is there a version of this that works outside of downtown? On a neighborhood commercial street like Wellington? What would it look like? It's an open question that needs some creativity. That citizen initiative for year-round pedestrianization triggered a full city consultation. The short version of the result was no. The long version is, it's too early to commit. Study it more. In the meantime, maybe we can work on incremental advances, like extending the pedestrian season or improving traffic calming year-round. While both of my business owners were against year-round pedestrianization, they were open to some other ideas. The bookstore owner was open to pushing the season a little longer, and was interested in the redesign of another pedestrian street that I mentioned, to Castelnau, which will continue to have car access outside of summer, but with a nicer design that is paving stones and the whole street at the same level.
Design does make a difference. It attracts more people because in itself, just coming and walking on the street because it's beautiful or it's well designed is going to give you a reason to come here. After that, it's up to us merchants to make sure we attract you inside our stores.
If there's anything business owners like, it's investing money into the design and ambience of their space. And I think there's a lot of common ground to be found there. So are pedestrian streets good for business? The counters in Wellington show that car-free streets can dramatically boost pedestrian traffic, especially in denser, walkable neighborhoods with good transit options. In general, this is good for business, absolutely. But a bookstore takes advantage of the pedestrian street differently from a restaurant, for example. And it's possible for not every business to benefit, even if overall it's good for the street. I personally think that winter pedestrian streets are possible, even in a climate like ours. But what it looks like is going to be different from a summer pedestrian street. And I don't think we've figured out the model yet, in the way that we clearly have for summer pedestrian streets. If you want more evidence for the business impact of car-free streets, another one in Montreal is losing its car-free status, temporarily for construction, and business owners are not happy.
Singh is one of many restaurants and bar owners on Saint-Denis streets who say they're seeing fewer clients this year.
I think I lost more than 40% of the customer because people prefer to go to the area which is more calm.
Thanks for watching through to the end of the video. Thanks to EcoCounter for the data and support. And thanks to the business owners in Wellington who talked to me.